Everybody, old Gare out here at Stockton Lake today. Golly, I'm with my buddy Jeffrey Deckard and Adam's back here. I tell you what, we have been catching some beautiful crappie toward just about the middle of August. We have a good report coming from Stockton. Got a good report also out at Truman. Hey, there's been some pretty good fishing at Beaver and Table Rock, and we'll take a look at Shoals and Taneycomo. And I tell you what, we're making a film out here today on how to spider rig, and this will be aired a little bit later on in the next week or two. But boy, nice crappie out here at Stockton. Hey, Jeffrey, let's go fishing.
Fish and Chums!
Boy, that was a lot of fun out there at Stockton Lake. Boy, I tell you, we had a great time. Thank you, Jeff and Adam, and I can't wait to get back out there with you. You know, that spider rigging is not for everybody because there's quite a bit of expense in spider rigging because you have to, like they have 8 poles that are 12 foot long. Some people use 14, and I think Jeff said they're even 18 feet long. But anyway, then you have to have the special adapters, the rod holders. You have to have very good electronics. And so it's not something you can say, call your buddy and say, hey, let's go spider rigging up at Stockton this weekend. It don't work that way. You have to put a lot of time into it. Then once you get all of your equipment, you have to learn how to use it, your rods, your setup, your weights. But boy, once you figure that out, like Jeff and Adam did, man, it's a lot of fun. Completely different type of fishing. Who said you couldn't teach an old dog new tricks? Thanks, Jeff and Adams, and of course Brandon. We had a great time. All right, I want to thank you all for being with us today. Here we are going on the middle of August. My gosh, time is flying, and been a little warm, but not too bad. We have some pretty good fishing reports coming your way. We have some good photos. Be sure to stick with us at the end of the program. Brandon and I have selected some real fun photos, some kid stuff that I know you're really going to enjoy. Once again, I want to thank all of our thousands of viewers that's been viewing every week on YouTube and, of course, on Facebook. A lot of viewers on Facebook right now. Thank you all very much. And if you'd like to join us over on YouTube, Brandon, put it up there. Get out there and subscribe. Just push that button. Click. It's absolutely free, and you'll never miss out on anything. But again, thanks to all of our viewers on Facebook. Gosh, thousands of you. God bless you. All right, let's go out to Beaver Lake. I love Beaver. My gosh, what a beautiful lake. What a beautiful part of the country over there in Arkansas. And water temperature was 87 degrees this morning. And I want to first of all take a photo here. And Jeffrey Carhill was out the other day and picked up these beautiful stripers in about 55 or 60 feet of water. Boy, beautiful fish, Jeffrey. Good going, good going. Other than the stripers being caught in deep water out at Beaver, there's been some early morning topwater action for the few people going out there at Beaver and doing some topwater fishing. They've been picking up some fish on popper type baits, popping baits. Also, it's a lunker lure. I heard of a couple of good fish being caught on lunker lures out there. And, of course, they've been picking up some fish on, some people have been walking the dog. So try a little topwater fishing. Bass fishing's been pretty good. Some people are using Texas-style worms, the bigger worms, going into the brush piles, swimming it past the brush piles and dropping it and jigging it in the brush piles and picking up some nice bass this way. And I understand on windy days, if you happen to have a little wind on the points and secondary points, you can get out a square-bill crankbait and pick some fish up out there. And they also been using jigs, throwing some jigs and dragging jigs off those long points. So looks good. And we had a pretty good report of some crappie being caught this last few days out at Beaver. And they are still picking up a few walleye off the points and secondary points at the lower end of the lake. And an ant on me. All right, let's go out to Table Rock. That water temperature out there this morning was 87 degrees. And, you know, there's been some pretty good bass fishing. I think we have a little bit of a lull, but it's starting to pick up again out at Table Rock. I've had reports of, again, the topwater bite is getting a little bit stronger in the morning and evening hours. Check this out. And of course, they're still picking up some fish on those long gravel points using that peanut butter and jelly jig, dragging it, and that may pay off for you. And I want to say howdy to Hayden Long and his old Papa Frank. There's a couple photos for you. They were out just earlier in the week and picked up some real nice bass, And so want to say a shout out to Hayden, and boy, that Hayden, boy, he's a young man. He's on a high school fishing team, and boy, he's a good fisherman. Got a good teacher, Frank. He's a good teacher. How about that? And one other photo from Table Rock. Johanny, hey, how about my little #1 fan? Johanny, look at this nice catfish he caught the other day at Table Rock. My golly, he's a good fisherman. That kid, I was watching him the other day out at Table Rock. He's on that bank, and he's throwing out, and he's casting. Boy, he's a good fishing guy, I tell you. Your daddy's a good fisherman, too. Good going, good going. Okay, we talked a little bit about the bass. They're picking up a few walleye. It's been a little stingy. Table Rock's been a little stingy the last few days, but they seem to be suspended up off the points. They're not down on the bottom. And so thicker shads have been doing number 7 or number 11, or excuse me, a number 9. Number 9's the best. And put something with a little bit of blue in it. Pick up one of those blue flicker shads. That seems to be working a little bit better. Not a big run, but they are picking up a few off the shad, off the points and secondary points out there. Still getting pretty good report at Table Rock on a few crappie being caught towards the upper end of Table Rock on some of the brush piles around Cape Fair area. You guys know where those brush piles are. You can get out there, and minnows seems to be the best overall ticket. You might pick you up a mess of crappie this weekend and have a crappie dinner. Boy, that sounds good. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. All right, out at Lake Taneycomo. Boy, there's been some nice trout caught out there this last week. I mean, some big trout. Some big rainbows and a couple nice brown trout, but the rainbows are really going on jerk baits up in that upper end of the lake, or lower end down below Table Rock Dam. A couple of dandies were caught the other day. And also, look at this, coming out of Trout Hollow Lodge. Look at this. Boy, he caught this on a rooster tail. Boy, I neglect to talk about rooster tails sometime, and rooster tails can be very productive out at Taneycomo. Now, it's been kind of quiet in the mornings at Taneycomo, and that water's real clear, so you need to go to light line 2 or 4. I like to use 2 this time of the year with that real clear water, but nothing over 4 I'd recommend. Get out there with small jigs, 32nd, 64th. Dark right now is working like a black or a brown. I heard cinnamon was good too. And cast that out and let that jig go down. Try to get in the shade if you can. You can pick yourself a nice trout up. Then around 9 o'clock, they've been releasing some water from the turbines, and then drift fishing gets pretty good. And this is when you still want to go. Boy, the night crawler's still picking up the most trout out of Lake Taneycomo drifting, so you may want to try this out. And so Taneycomo, that water temperature out there this morning, guys, were with 53 degrees, all that water coming out of that deep water dam at Table Rock. It's cool, that's for sure. And so some nice trout out at Lake Taneycomo. Speaking of trout, guys, boy, I got to show you this picture. Jason Thomas was out the other day, Monarch State Park, and look at this 12-pound rainbow he caught. Gosh darn, that's a nice fish. I've got a 12-pounder that I caught at Lake Taneycomo. Where's my thumb? You're right in back of me here years ago. And boy, that's a trophy anytime you catch a trout like that. So Jason, I want to show that one more time. That is a beautiful, beautiful rainbow trout out of Monarch State Park. Boy, that's a beautiful part of the country. Catfish is from that part of the country. Okay, let's go out at Bull Shoals. That water temperature out there this morning was 87 degrees. We're still getting some fair reports of some topwater action. Some people are saying they're not doing any good. Other people, I think down at that lower end off some of the points, way early in the morning, are using a whopper plopper, and they've been using some spooks, walking the dog, and also some popping baits. So you may want to try this out. And you know, the trout, I'm thinking about Taneycomo and all those big trout, but the bass hey, you need to get off the points and secondary points and find the shad, find the bait. That's what you need to do. And 15, 20, 25 feet of water. Once you find that big old balls of shad off those points and secondary points, you can throw, you can throw some grubs. I like to throw grubs. Other people will flip spoons up there and go through that school and jig that spoon back. And sometimes, you do that and the bass will follow it. And you can get right at the edge of the boat and drop that grub or that spoon and just flip it, just kind of jig it, and you can catch some fish this way as well. And windy days, they've been picking up a few bass on the points and secondary points on square-billed crankbaits. And they're doing some drop shotting out there. And also they've been using some, picking up some fish on just some swim baits. Throwing some swim baits through those schools of shad. That might work. And flipping jigs in some of those brush piles. So, hey, they're catching fish out at Bull Shoals. A few walleye are being caught, like out at Taneycomo. Been a little slower the last few days, but they have been picking up some walleye early morning, late evening, trolling the points, secondary points. These fish seem to be suspended in about 30 feet of water. They may be in that 15 to 20. Flicker shads have been the best overall trolling bait out there right now. Some people have been drifting some jig and night crawlers, occasionally picking up a walleye, but I think trolling's a little bit better. All right, let's go back to Stockton. My golly, did we have fun out there. Stockton's such a lovely lake. It's a beautiful lake, and I tell you, Jeff and Ab and I and Brandon were out the other day, and I think we only seen 3 other boats. The lake is not busy at all, and they are catching fish out there. Boy, I'm telling you, some nice walleye are being caught. I've heard of the limits. Not real big walleye, but eaters. That's good. That's good. In fact, we have a photo of Austin Hendricks was out the other day. Look at this beautiful walleye that he caught. And working those points and secondary points. Some people are working night crawlers. Other people are trolling. And they are picking up some walleye out at Stockton. But I tell you, those crappie, gosh, the boys got us in them the other day. We're on the flats. These crappie are in there in those big schools of shad. Boy, we've seen some big schools of shad and crappie in with them. And they've been doing that spider rigging. Boy, a lot of fun. But I think you could get out there and maybe just slow troll any type of a crankbait maybe through these schools of shad and pick up some crappie. But it seems like these crappie are on the flats and maybe 15 to 20 feet of water. Experiment, but with your electronics, get on these flats and look for big schools of shad. Once you do that, I think you'll catch some crappie. Boy, we had a lot of fun, a lot of fun. In fact, look at this photo of Brandon and I. We're holding up a couple dandies. Boy, that was fun. Fun fishing. I'm going back out there with the guys. I'm telling you, I'm going to have a big crappie dinner here before too long. All right, let's go out to Pomme, and I've had some reports that Pomme, not many people are doing this, but Pomme de Terre has been producing some pretty darn good, watch what I'm saying, pretty good, pretty good catfishing out there. And the report I had, the guys are using worms or night crawlers, picking up some catfish. And they've been picking up some fish on cut shad out there. But there's some nice cats being caught at Pomme de Terre right now. A few crappie, the lower end on those deep water brush piles, and minnows are the best overall baits. The jigs aren't doing too good, but they are picking up some fish. And even around some of the docks, deep fishing minnows have been picking up some fish at Pomme. That water temperature out there this morning was 85 degrees. By the way, the other day when we were out at Stockton, that water temperature got up to around 87, in between 85 and 87. Okay, let's go out to Truman. Let's start things out. They're catching some nice walleye out there on occasion. Look at this. Kelly Sims was out the other day at Truman. At Truman now. And Kelly caught this beautiful walleye. Good fish, good fish. They've been trolling and working the KK Island areas. And then down in that lower end, around that KK Island, some people are working those points and secondary points, trolling some flicker shads, occasionally picking up a fish. And, of course, at times, the hybrids and white bass are coming up. You might catch yourself some of these. And the crappie are being caught out there. Some of the boys are being tight-lipped about it. But they are going back in the flats, just like we were fishing the flats the other day at Stockton. They're going back at the flats and fishing around these willow trees. They're in the brush and the willow trees. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks on the program. Minnows have been the best overall bait. And these willow trees may be in 30 feet of water or 25, and you just put that minnow on just a hook, like a gold hook with a little bit of a weight, like just a clamp-on, snap-on weight, and put that minnow on and start at the bottom and just creep up, and you might find them in a certain depth, like 15 to 18 feet of water. But try those willow trees on the flats at Truman. Keep thinking about Stockton. At Truman also, the bass fishing's been fair. They've been fishing the points and secondary points and getting a brush pile. That 10-inch plastic worm, ooh boy, that's catching some fish out there. And also they've been using a few swim baits. And once in a while they're picking up a nice bass at Truman on crankbaits. So you may want to check this out. Down below the dam, at the upper end of the Lake of the Ozarks, they're still picking up fish there. Some big blues have been caught. Some people are saying it's slowing down a little bit. I think the boys are still catching some fish. And, and I know they are, because look at Preston. He was out the other day. Now look at this at the upper end of Lake of the Ozarks. My gosh, Preston Bryant, huge catfish. This is a monster. And so, boy, if you want a big blue, a big catfish, go at the upper end of Lake of the Ozarks and fish the points down away from the upper end on Lake of the Ozarks. Drift some shad, cut shad, and you could catch a big old fish like Preston. My golly, that was a big fish. Water temperature out there this morning was 85 degrees. Once in a while, they're picking up a walleye on these points. Not many people fishing for them, but occasionally they're picking up a walleye on the points. Trolling flicker shads or minnows. And some nice crappie are being caught. We're talking about this every week at Lake of the Ozarks. The guys are trolling those crankbaits, trolling over the brush piles, points, secondary points, picking up some nice crappie. I've heard some limits being caught out there. So Lake of the Ozarks looks good for the upcoming weekend. And they've been picking up some crappie on minnows around some of the docks as well. And the bass fishing's been pretty fair at Lake of the Ozarks. They're picking up some fish on swim baits, on the points, secondary points, some crankbaits on overcast days. And they've been picking up some fish on, we've had some reports, slow rolling spinner baits. Hey, try this out, Lake of the Ozarks for the upcoming weekend. Some fish can be caught in the early morning hours on topwater at the lake. Okay, let's go to Norfolk. That water temperature out there this morning was 87 degrees. And they've been picking up some walleye out there. That's the big news at Norfolk. I think I talked about it on last week's program. And around 25, 30 feet of water. They've been trolling over these points and secondary points. And they've been picking up some fish on spoons. Those boys out at Norfolk love to spoon fish for walleye. Boy, they spoon fish for crappie, walleye, big stripers. Speaking of stripers, they have been picking up a few striper on occasion in deep water. I've heard 60, 65, and even 70 foot on bigger spoons, and so you may want to check this out. So that's a pretty good report for you for here in the middle of August, and I'm looking forward to going back to Stockton. I think this weekend I may go back out there. I just love that lake. You know, Stockton has a great population of crappie and some really nice walleye population. Catfishing is good there. And the white bass occasionally are coming up and breaking, and that's always fun. So you might catch me out there this weekend. Well, we want to thank you very much for being with us today. We've got some great photos coming your way, so don't go anywhere. We want to have you like and share. We really appreciate that, so you can get all your friends involved in all this chaos and having fun with us. And be sure to subscribe, as we mentioned. But if you have any photos, we're getting photos every week from people every week from people we haven't heard of before. And we thank you very much, and I'm glad you're joining our team and sending fishing information and also sending photos. We like to share these photos. If we don't get it on the main portion of the show, like we just did, we always put them on at the end of the program, as many as we can. And that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, that's it for the day. Once again, I want to thank Phil and Adam for treating us to a great spider rigging trip out at Stockton. And I want to thank Brandon. Gosh darn, we had a lot of fun, didn't we, Brandon? And he does such a good job on editing this show. He's an awesome kid. Great kid. Speaking of that, have yourself a good upcoming weekend. Watch the weather. It could be a little iffy with some thunderstorms. But get out there, take plenty of water, and get bit this weekend. Send me a picture, okay? All right, God bless you all. Roll 'em, Brandon.